I learned early that the market is a relentless mirror, reflecting not its own truths, but the flaws within us. My first great losses weren't from bad analysis, but from the desperate need to see a signal where none existed. I wanted the market to speak to me, to whisper secrets, when in truth it merely is. This hunger, this impatience, led me to chase whispers that turned into screams of regret, believing every flicker was a sign, every tremor a prophecy. It was a fool's game, born of ego and a profound lack of understanding. The amateur believes the market gives signals. He hunts for a magic indicator, a specific pattern that will infallibly point the way. He scans charts, devours news, and listens to the chatter, convinced that somewhere out there a definitive sign awaits discovery. But the professional knows better. The market reveals itself to those who are prepared, to those who possess the discipline to wait, to observe, and to act only when the message is unmistakable. This isn't about finding secrets. It's about becoming the kind of trader who can recognize the truth when it stands before him, stark and clear. The first secret, then, is patience, not merely waiting, but waiting with purpose, with absolute conviction that the right moment will arrive. Do not force the trade. Let the trade come to you. The market does not care for your schedule or your desire for action. It moves when it is ready, and your task is to align with its rhythm, not to impose your own. I watched countless opportunities pass, not because I missed them, but because they were not ripe. The truly potent signals emerge from prolonged observation, not from hurried impulse. This leads to the second secret: observation. Many look at the tape. Few read it. Reading means understanding the character of the market, the ebb and flow of buying and selling pressure. It means seeing beyond mere price movements to the underlying psychology driving them. Is the market absorbing selling? Is buying drying up? These are the subtle shifts, the almost imperceptible changes in character that tell you when the tide is truly turning. It is not about what the market does, but how it does it. The market is a living entity, and observation is learning its language, not just reading its words. I learned this through the bitter taste of premature action, of mistaking a tremor for an earthquake. My early losses were a testament to my own blindness. I would see a flicker, a hint of movement, and my ego would scream, "This is it." I would leap, convinced I had outsmarted the crowd, only to be crushed by the market's indifference. The cause was always the same: a desperate need to be right, to force a signal into existence. This hunger for action, this belief that activity equaled progress, was a lie. Activity without purpose is just noise. I learned to sit, to watch, to feel the rhythm without judgment. This was not idleness. This was work. Waiting is work. It is the hardest, most profitable work. The market does not reward haste. It rewards clarity. Clarity comes from stillness, from allowing the picture to form itself. You cannot rush the market. Every forced trade was merely a bet against the inevitable truth that the market reveals itself only to those patient enough to listen. The greatest lesson was not about finding the perfect signal, but about surviving long enough to recognize it. I saw men, brilliant men, wiped out by bad sizing. They risked too much on a whisper, leaving no capital for the shout. Size is survival. It is the armor that protects you from inevitable wrong turns. My own greed often led me to commit too much, too soon. I wanted the big score. This was the gambler's fallacy. Each oversized position was a silent prayer, a desperate hope the market would confirm my premature conviction. And hope is the costliest position on the market. It blinds you to reality. I held on to losing trades, not from analysis, but because my ego refused to admit error. I hoped it would turn around. This was self-deception. The market cares nothing for your hopes or fears. It simply is. To survive, one must shed hope and embrace brutal reality. The market punishes the emotional, rewards the dispassionate. This brings me to the third secret: discipline. Not the discipline of a soldier, but of a scientist observing an experiment. It is the unwavering commitment to your rules, to your method, even when your emotions scream otherwise. My greatest victories were not when I was cleverest, but when I was most disciplined. I cut losses without hesitation. I waited for confirmation, even if it meant missing an early move. I traded small, until the signal became undeniable. The market is a battlefield, and discipline is your shield. Without it, every emotional tremor, every whisper of greed or fear, becomes a fatal wound. It is the internal struggle, the fight against your own human nature. The desire to act, the fear of missing out, the paralysis of loss. These are the true enemies. Discipline is the cold, hard logic that cuts through the emotional fog, allowing you to see the signal for what it is, not what you wish it to be. The market does not give signals, it presents them. Your job is to be ready to see them, to have the capital to act, and the discipline to follow your plan. Many traders see the signal, but lack the courage or conviction to act, or they act with such force that a small misstep becomes ruin. This is the difference between sensing a truth and being able to profit from it. It is the difference between a fleeting insight and a consistent methodology. Without discipline, patience becomes cowardice, and observation turns into mere spectatorship. It is the bedrock upon which all other principles stand. But discipline itself is not enough. A disciplined fool is still a fool. You can have the patience of a saint, the observation of a hawk, and the discipline of a monk, yet still lose everything if you betray the fourth secret: capital preservation. My early mistakes were not just about seeing false signals. They were about betting too much on them. I treated my capital not as a limited resource, but as an endless supply for my next conviction. This was arrogance. I would risk a significant portion of my stake on a single idea, believing my insight was infallible. The market taught me otherwise. It cares nothing for your conviction. It cares only for the balance sheet. I once held a position certain of its direction. My analysis was sound, my patience unwavering, but the market, in its cruel wisdom, moved against me just enough to test my resolve. My discipline commanded me to cut the loss. My ego screamed, "Hold, you are right." The position was too large. Every tick against me was a blow to my very being. This fight, this internal war, was the true cost. I was not just losing money, I was losing composure, losing the clarity required to see the next move. This is the insidious trap. When your capital is threatened, your judgment is compromised. You stop thinking like a trader and start praying like a gambler. The principle is simple, brutally so. Never risk what you cannot afford to lose, and never risk so much that a single loss cripples your ability to trade again. This is not about being conservative. It is about being strategic. It is about playing the long game. The market will always offer another opportunity. Your job is to ensure you are still in the game when it does. I learned to scale my positions, to keep my losses small, almost insignificant, until the market confirmed my read. This transformation was painful. It meant admitting I was not always right. It meant accepting small defeats to ensure overall victory. It meant understanding that capital is your ammunition. Without it, you are disarmed. This leads directly to the fifth and final secret: confirmation. Many traders believe they must anticipate the market, get in early, catch the first whisper of a trend. This is a mirage. The truly profitable move is rarely the first. It is the confirmed move. I used to jump at shadows, convinced I saw the future. I would enter a trade based on a strong hunch, only to watch the market hesitate, then reverse, leaving me trapped. My ego demanded I be a prophet. The market demanded I be a realist. The market provides its most reliable signals only after it has established a clear direction. It does not whisper secrets for you to decode. It shouts truths for you to acknowledge. My biggest gains came not from brilliant foresight, but from patient observation and disciplined action after the market had made its intentions clear. I waited for the pattern to complete, for the volume to confirm, for the price action to undeniably align with my thesis. This wasn't about being late. It was about being right. Waiting is work. This applies to confirmation more than anything. It means resisting the urge to jump. It means letting the trend mature, letting the signal become undeniable. The price you pay for certainty is often a few points on the entry, but the price you gain is peace of mind and significantly higher probability of success. I learned to let others take the initial risk, to let the market prove itself before committing my capital. This was the transformation from an impatient speculator to a patient opportunist. Think of it, the market is a river. The amateur tries to predict where the current will shift next. The professional waits for the current to show its direction, then simply floats with it. He recognizes that fighting the current is futile. He waits for the strong, undeniable flow. This is not about guessing. It is about reading. It is about understanding that the market doesn't need your help to move. It needs your respect. My most significant losses, in retrospect, were always preceded by a betrayal of one of these 5 principles. Impatience led to premature action. Poor observation meant misreading the tape. Lack of discipline allowed emotions to dictate my trades. Neglecting capital preservation meant I couldn't recover from setbacks. And a failure to wait for confirmation meant I was often early, which is just as bad as being wrong. Each error was a lesson carved in the bitter stone of financial loss. The market never hides its truth. It merely presents it in a language few are willing to learn. It speaks through price action, through volume, through time. It does not speak through hope or fear. It demands objectivity. It demands a cold, hard look at reality. And the reality is, the market will take everything you have if you are not prepared to listen, to wait, to observe, to manage, and to confirm. It is a brutal education, one paid for in shattered accounts and broken spirits. Many traders see their losses as external events, as the market's fault. This is a dangerous delusion. The market does not care. It is an indifferent force. Your losses are a mirror, reflecting your own impatience, your own greed, your own fear. I fought this mirror for years. I blamed the tape, the news, the manipulators. But the truth was always within me. My greatest enemy was not the market. It was Livermore himself. The amateur approaches the market like a gambler, hoping for a lucky streak, chasing tips, looking for a shortcut to riches. He sees every price movement as an opportunity, a chance to get rich quick. His mind is a whirlwind of anticipation and anxiety. He acts on impulse, driven by the primal urge to be right, to prove himself. He enters trades too early, stays in too long, and cuts profits too quickly, all because he is enslaved by his emotions. He believes the market owes him something. It owes him nothing. The professional, however, understands that the market is a battlefield of probabilities, not certainties. He knows that every trade is just one event in a long series. His focus shifts from being right on a single trade to being consistently profitable over time. This requires a profound psychological shift, a transformation from a reactive, emotional creature to a dispassionate, analytical machine. It is a lonely path, requiring constant self-scrutiny. I remember the gnawing feeling, the physical ache in my gut when a position went against me, the voice in my head, whispering, "Hold on, it must turn round." This was hope, the costliest position on the market. It was a poison, clouding my judgment, paralyzing my ability to act decisively. I would watch my profits vanish, then turn into losses, simply because I refused to admit I was wrong. The cause of this error was pure ego, a refusal to accept the market's verdict. The principle violated was discipline, the cold, hard rule to cut losses quickly. The transformation came when I realized that a loss is just information. It is the market telling you your premise was incorrect, or your timing was off. It is not a personal insult. It is a data point. My early mistake was to personalize these losses, to feel them as a defeat of my intellect. But the market has no intellect to defeat. It simply is. My job was not to fight it, but to understand its language, and to respond without emotion. This understanding is what separates the few who succeed from the many who fail. It's about detaching from the outcome of any single trade and focusing on the process. It's about building a robust methodology that accounts for inevitable errors. You will be wrong. The market will fool you. The question is, how will you react? Will you double down in defiance, or will you accept the truth and move on? The greatest enemy is not the market, but the man in the mirror. His impatience, his greed, his fear. These are the forces that drive you to make oversized bets, to chase fleeting movements, to ignore the clear signals. Size is survival. I learned this after many painful lessons. When I traded too large, my emotional involvement became unbearable. Every tick against me was a blow to my financial future, triggering panic, forcing irrational decisions. The cause was always the same: a desperate desire for quick, immense wealth. The principle violated was capital preservation, risking too much on a single conviction. The transformation was slow, agonizing. It meant learning to scale down, to trade small until the market confirmed my read. It meant accepting that patience was not a weakness, but the ultimate strength. Waiting is work. It is the work of holding your nerve, of observing without bias, of allowing the market to reveal its hand fully. It is the work of resisting the urge to act on every flicker, every rumor. It is the work of a professional. The market offers endless opportunities, but it does not offer endless second chances to those who ignore its fundamental truths. It tests your resolve, your discipline, your very character. It strips away your illusions, one painful loss at a time, until you are left with nothing but the unvarnished truth of your own trading psychology. The ultimate signal is not on the chart, but in your own disciplined mind. It is the clarity that emerges when the internal noise of emotion finally quiets. This quiet, this inner discipline, is the true edge. It allows you to see the market not as a battlefield, but as a vast, complex mechanism. You stop fighting it and start flowing with it. You learn to recognize the subtle shifts, the almost imperceptible changes that tell you when to act, and more importantly, when to remain still. You become a part of its rhythm, rather than an antagonist to it. This transformation is not easy. It demands sacrifice, self-awareness, and a willingness to confront your deepest psychological flaws. The market will expose them all. It exposed my vanity, my desperate need to be seen as clever. I wanted to outsmart everyone, to prove my genius, rather than simply profit. This was the first, most dangerous illusion, that the market cared for my ego. It does not. It only cares for capital, and it will strip you bare if you bring anything less than cold, hard logic to its arena. I chased whispers of opportunity, not because they were clear, but because I craved the thrill of discovery, the validation of being first. Every tick against a position I held to large was a whisper of panic, then a shout. My mind would race, inventing reasons why the market must turn, why my initial premise had to be correct. This was not analysis. It was self-deception. It was hope, the costliest position on the market. I learned that hope is the enemy of truth. It blinds you to the tape's clear message, convincing you to hold on to a losing hand, turning small errors into catastrophic defeats. I would cling to a losing trade, not from conviction, but from fear of admitting I was wrong, fear of realizing my own fallibility. That fear was a far greater enemy than any market downturn. The greatest battles were fought not on the trading floor, but within my own skull. The urge to act, to seize every flicker of movement, was relentless. My fingers would itch to place an order, to do something, anything, rather than sit in stillness. But I knew this impulse was often a trap. This is why waiting is work. It is the discipline of inaction, the strength to resist the siren call of false opportunity. It is the hardest work, because it demands mastery over yourself, a constant suppression of the animal instinct for immediate gratification. To wait, truly wait, is to confront your own impatience and conquer it. The market doesn't reward cleverness. It rewards patience and discipline. I saw fortunes evaporate because men confused activity with progress. They believed constant trading meant constant profits. It means constant fees, constant exposure, and constant emotional drain. My own early failures were paved with this relentless, pointless activity, a frantic dance that led nowhere but to exhaustion and depleted capital. I had to learn to sit on my hands, to watch the parade of opportunities pass by, knowing most were not for me. This wasn't about missing out. It was about preserving capital for the right opportunity, the one that screamed its presence, not whispered it. Size is survival. I understood this when I saw men financially ruined, not by being wrong, but by being too big when they were wrong. They couldn't afford a single error. I learned to risk little, to scale in, to protect my ammunition. My capital was not a toy for my ego. It was my army, to be deployed with precision, not recklessness. A single oversized bet could wipe out months of careful observation and disciplined patience. The market does not forgive such hubris. The market does not care for your schedule. It does not care for your desire for action. It operates on its own timeline, its own logic. To force a trade is to fight the tide, and the tide always wins. I learned this when I would enter a position out of sheer impatience, only to see the market drift aimlessly, or worse, turn against me, slowly, agonizingly, until my resolve broke. This was the cost of seeking signals where only silence existed, of projecting my own desires onto an indifferent tape. The market has no obligation to fulfill your fantasies. Every dollar lost was a tuition fee, paid directly to the market for a lesson I was often too stubborn to learn. It taught me humility. It taught me that my opinions, however strongly held, were irrelevant. Only price mattered. Only the tape's undeniable message. This was the brutal truth. The market is not a debating society. It is an executioner of false beliefs. It will strip away every comforting illusion, leaving you face to face with the cold, hard facts. My transformation was not a sudden epiphany, but a slow, grinding process. It was like chiseling away marble, removing everything that was not the truth. The market was my sculptor, mercilessly chipping away at my arrogance, my impatience, my fear. Each loss was a blow, but each also revealed a clearer outline of what I needed to become. I had to shed the skin of the gambler, the speculator driven by emotion, and don the armor of the dispassionate observer. This required a constant agonizing self-assessment, a willingness to admit error, not just to the market, but to myself. The true signal, I realized, was not just on the chart. It was also within me. It was the absence of internal noise. It was the quiet confidence that came from having done the work, the waiting, the observing, the managing. When the market spoke, I had to be ready to listen, not to argue. This readiness was my greatest asset, born from countless hours of disciplined inaction and ruthless self-correction. It was the calm before the storm, the clarity that precedes decisive action. I learned to trust the process, not the outcome of any single trade. The outcome was a consequence. The process was control. When I focused on the process, on my rules, my discipline, my risk management, the market became less terrifying, less personal. It became a puzzle to solve, not an enemy to fight. This shift in perspective, from emotional combatant to objective strategist, was fundamental to my survival. The market's greatest gift is self-knowledge. It shows you exactly who you are under pressure. Are you greedy, impatient, fearful? It will expose every weakness, every crack in your resolve. My journey was not just about mastering the market. It was about mastering myself. The market was merely the arena where that battle was waged, a relentless mirror reflecting my own internal landscape. It stripped away the illusion that I was anything more than human, prone to error, susceptible to emotion. And it is a battle that never truly ends. The market constantly evolves, and so must the trader. The lessons are eternal, but their application requires constant vigilance. The moment you believe you have mastered it, the market prepares to humble you once more. Arrogance is the most expensive luxury on the trading floor, paid for in every currency imaginable. The market will always find your weakness, if you let it. The market finds your weakness in the quiet times, not just the volatile ones. It finds it when you sit, watching, and the tape offers no clear direction. That silence, that stillness, can be a torment. The amateur sees it as a void, a waste of time. He feels compelled to act, to force a signal, to conjure opportunity out of thin air. This is the insidious trap of impatience, the belief that simply doing something is better than doing nothing. My own hands would itch. My mind would race, inventing reasons to enter a trade, any trade, just to feel the rush of action. This was ego, disguised as diligence. I learned that this urge to act, born of discomfort with inactivity, was a profound vulnerability. The market does not reward constant motion. It rewards precise, well-timed strikes. Waiting is work. It is the most profitable work. It is the discipline of resisting the siren call of false activity, of allowing the true signals to mature, to shout their presence, rather than chasing whispers. Every forced trade was merely a bet against my own discipline, a concession to an emotional itch. The market cares nothing for your need for excitement. It only cares for clarity, and clarity rarely comes from haste. Another weakness the market exploits is overconfidence, particularly after a string of successes. A few good trades can inflate the ego, whispering illusions of infallibility. You begin to believe your judgment is superior, that you can bend the market to your will. This is a dangerous delusion. I remember times when a significant profit led me to believe I had cracked the code, that I was untouchable. My positions would grow larger, my caution would diminish. I would start to see patterns where none existed, interpreting every flicker as a confirmation of my genius. This was arrogance, pure and unadulterated. The market, in its brutal wisdom, always had a way of correcting this hubris. A swift, unexpected reversal, a prolonged, sideways movement that eroded my gains, or a sudden, sharp drop that caught my oversized position exposed. The cause was always the same, a betrayal of capital preservation, driven by an inflated ego. I had forgotten that size is survival. When you trade too large, your emotional involvement escalates. Every tick against you becomes a personal affront, triggering panic, forcing irrational decisions. The market does not punish your mistakes. It punishes your inability to control yourself after making a mistake. This psychological battle is relentless. The market is not just a battle of wits, it is a battle of will. It tests your patience with prolonged periods of inactivity. It tests your discipline with tempting but unconfirmed movements. It tests your humility with unexpected losses. And it tests your resolve when you must cut a losing trade. Admitting error to yourself, even when your ego screams otherwise. This internal conflict, the fight between emotion and reason, is the trader's true arena. I learned that hope is the costliest position on the market. It is the insidious whisper that tells you to hold onto a losing trade, to wait for a miraculous reversal. It convinces you that the market must turn, simply because you desire it to. This is self-deception, pure and simple. I held on to losing positions, watching profits evaporate, then turn into catastrophic losses, all because I could not admit I was wrong. My ego refused to accept the market's verdict. The market, however, has no obligation to conform to your hopes. It simply is. To cling to hope in the face of contrary evidence is to commit financial suicide. The market does not punish ignorance. It punishes arrogance disguised as conviction. It punishes the emotional, rewards the dispassionate. My transformation began when I stopped fighting the market and started fighting myself. I realized that my greatest enemy was not the unpredictable tape, but the predictable flaws within my own character, my impatience, my greed, my fear, my vanity. These were the forces that blinded me to clear signals, that pushed me into premature actions, that caused me to hold on to losing trades with desperate, foolish hope. The market is a mirror, reflecting not its own truths, but the flaws within us. My journey was not about finding secrets in the charts. It was about uncovering the truth within myself. It was about learning to quiet the internal noise, to silence the whispers of ego and emotion, so I could hear the market's clear, objective message. This required a brutal self-assessment, a willingness to confront every psychological weakness, every impulse that led to error. It meant accepting that I was not a genius, but a student, forever learning, forever adapting. The market is a master, and its lessons are carved in the bitter stone of financial loss. The ultimate realization then was this: the market does not give you signals. It offers conditions. It presents opportunities. But the true signal, the one that leads to profit and survival, is not found on the tape, nor in any indicator, but within the trader himself. It is the internal alignment of patience, observation, discipline, and capital preservation. It is the quiet certainty that comes from having conquered your own internal demons. The market doesn't need to change for you to succeed. You need to change for the market. This was the profound, painful truth I earned through years of battle. My success was never about predicting the market's next move, but about mastering my own reactions to it. It was about becoming the calm, dispassionate observer, ready to act only when the market's message resonated with my own perfectly aligned internal state. The signal was not a whisper from the market. It was a shout from my own prepared mind. And so, my journey evolved from chasing phantom signals to internal readiness. The market became less adversary, more teacher, revealing truth not through indicators, but self-examination. I stopped looking for secrets in the market, and started looking within. My guiding principles, patience, observation, discipline, capital preservation, and courage to admit error. These were pillars of a prepared mind, the foundation upon which opportunity reveals itself. They allowed me to see truth, stark and undeniable, after clearing internal clutter, ego, fear, impatience. The market never changes. Human nature never changes. Therefore, lessons are eternal. What shifts is self-mastery, aligning your internal state with the market's objective reality. This is the ultimate signal. Not a chart pattern, nor a news whisper, but the quiet certainty within your own being that the moment is ripe. It is the absence of doubt, born from diligent preparation and ruthless objectivity. This clarity, this inner silence, is the most powerful indicator a trader can possess. In the end, I learned true success is not predicting the future, but responding to the present with absolute precision and emotional detachment. It is becoming the trader who recognizes truth, clear and unmistakable. No place for the impulsive, hopeful, arrogant. An arena for the patient, disciplined, humble. Fortunes built, not by cleverness, but relentless self-mastery. The market remains a relentless mirror of your flaws and strengths. Therefore, understand this. The market cares not for your intentions, only your actions. It rewards not your effort, but your results. Your results flow directly from your self-control. This truth I earned, paid in bitter loss, forged in psychological warfare. The greatest trade is with yourself. Conquer impulses, silence ego. The enduring lesson, not finding the signal, but becoming it, a beacon of calm and clarity in a sea of noise. If these insights resonate with you, if you too are on this relentless journey of self-mastery in the markets, then I urge you, like this video, share your own struggles and triumphs in the comments below, and subscribe to this channel. For the battle against yourself is the only one that truly matters. And it is a battle every serious trader must fight, day after day, until the final bell.